Down and out, riddled with doubt, had nowhere to go. Everything's moving so slow, the time's moving too fast. I hope this feeling don't last. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping on to you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping on to you, on to you. Until my time is through, I'll keep slipping on to you, on to you. I was down and out, so riddled with doubt.
I am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion to the thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter. Baby's got corrosion now. Corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Well, now. Oh, that was loud. Hey, yo, this was it. What are you doing? Oh, no. Why? Good morning, everybody. I'm Casey Kasem. This is the American Top 40. And now back to the countdown. And now, back to the countdown. We have another large show for you today, about 41 stories. Yeah. Chuck, yeah, you'll just have to guess the lyrics, dude. You asked that question too many times, so you'll be okay not knowing what the words are to the theme song, okay? Chuck's in the house. We got Rick Salas is here. Steve Wolfbrand, good morning to you too. Miguel is here, and Global Solidarity, good morning to you as well. We got Teresa over on the Rock Fiend. I added that little story thing you sent, Teresa, so we're gonna have that in the mix shortly. Yeah, so just forgot to do that. There's always something. I was telling my buddy Noli the other day, hey Kate, what's up? Good morning. I was telling my buddy Noli last week she was supposed to come on. She had some issues with her camera or something, or she wasn't feeling pretty. I don't know what the fuck it was, but we got it all situated. But I always have that one thing that I always leave out. I always miss that kind of thing. So who knows? Probably going to happen today. I like to torture myself with having lots of bells and whistles on these shows. You know, I like to make it look pretty to disguise the fact that the host of the show is not very good. Also, another little fun fact today, we are attempting to stream on Facebook. So far, so good. No takers so far. Facebook folk are very fickle about what they watch, I believe. You know, they're usually tribal, and if it's something that doesn't jive with their worldview, then they chances are they're not going to watch it. So who knows? We may have a surprise viewer or two on there, but and it may be the last the last broadcast on Facebook. You know how they are. We have a couple stories on Meta later. Yeah, so they're not too keen on factual information being told to the masses. Yeah, Kate, on Facebook. It's on my personal page, Jonathan Dearman. The thing is, I don't have enough people following me on my War Deer Entertainment page. I think there's only like 58 people following. So if I get 100 followers on my Facebook War Deer Entertainment page, I can stream from there. Otherwise, got to do it from the personal account where I take pictures of oddities in Chicago and share them with the group. So yeah, I got in trouble for political stuff last time and had one of my accounts, anybody that's dealt with Facebook, and if you're in this space, you understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Ed. I'm there. I don't even know the people who would watch this show on Facebook, to be honest. But I really just wanted to test the technical aspect of it, and it seemed to work out okay. You know, the more you do this stuff, the more you learn about the technical funsies and stuff. Anyway, so I think that's all the announcements for right now. Kate, you're double dipping. You're on YouTube and Rockfin. So yeah, there's the link right there. So yeah, if you're on the Facebook, check out War Deer Entertainment. And usually it's just like me posting links about the shows and stuff like that. So all things that we do. Yeah, so big show again. Today is probably going to run another 2 hours if I keep running my mouth like this without even getting to it. Of course, first things first, we want to remind you about our buddy Chanda Masta, who is dealing with lung cancer and going through the treatments right now. She is in high spirits, although cancer treatment is not a fun thing for anybody. I have personal experience with my dad who had to go through it as well. So, you know, if you can, the GoFundMe link is in the description below. If you want to donate or if you want to share out the link, either one would be a good thing, and we appreciate you doing that. And of course, you know what? Hey, what's up, D? Good to see you. D, I'm on Facebook now. So, oh, look, Willie! There's Willie. I'm also going to say greetings from Facebook for the hell of it. Oh, okay. Very good. Thank you. Well, at least it works. I didn't know if the chat was going to work. That was the thing. I think streaming to it's one thing, but the chat, it's like a whole other beast. But anyway, enough of that. You know what month it is.
Fuck you, everybody. Good night.
That's right. Rocktober continues. And we'll have special announcements about shows coming up tonight and tomorrow, a little bit later in the show. But let's get to the news of the day. Got a lot to do here. Of course, Milton came through the other day, and now Milton, I believe the number now is 17 dead in Florida as millions left without power in the storm's aftermath. So at least 17 people have died after Hurricane Milton devastated portions of Florida as the extent of damage caused becomes clear in the wake of the storm. Milton made landfall as a Cat 3 hurricane Wednesday night near Sarasota County's Siesta Key, spawning dozens of tornadoes, 28-foot waves, strong winds, heavy rainfall, and devastating storm surge. 6 people in St. Lucie County Retirement Village have been killed by tornadoes brought on by the hurricane after a dozen twisters spawned in the region within 20 minutes. About 2.5 million homes and businesses in Florida have been left powerless, with those in the west central region the worst impact, and more than 50,000 linemen have been deployed in an effort to restore power. That's according to the governor yesterday. Ferocious winds caused a crane to collapse into the Tampa Bay Times in St. Petersburg, while the Tampa Bay Rays that it was said that it was hurt after the roof of its Tropicana Field Stadium was left in disrepair. All wind and storm surge warnings for Milton have been discontinued after the hurricane exited Florida's east coast. National Hurricane Center warned that hazards remain from damaged buildings, downed power lines, and floodwater. So basically, yeah, just cut straight across the state, right in the middle, and out into the Atlantic. The Atlantic. There we go. And of course, you know, this is going to cost a lot of money. Already, Helene was pretty expensive too, ranging from $60 to $100 billion in damage. But that was through several states. But Florida is dealing now. We're probably going to have some more. So today they're clearing down trees and power lines and mopping up flooded neighborhoods after Milton roared through. Fortunately, Milton did not trigger the catastrophic surge of seawater that was feared in Florida, one of many states hit by Hurricane Helene about 2 weeks ago. The cleanup operation could take many weeks or months for some people. You have to remember they were still cleaning up from Helene, and and now this comes along. The fifth most intense Atlantic hurricane on record, Milton, could cost insurers alone up to $100 billion. I think they've downgraded those estimates to around 60 or 70 billion. Still, big chunk of change. Franco, what's up? Good morning, sir. If you haven't seen it, Franco has a great video out about Diddy, and kind of goes into it. So check out his channel. Make sure if you're not subscribed, what's wrong with you? Check it out. It's very good. The editing's a little shoddy, but inside jokes. The White House pledged government support as the full extent of the damage was still being surveyed. And Trump saying some shit about how they fucked up the thing, whatever. We're not going to get into that, the politics of it. Floridians say they came through a double disaster while Milton came ashore on the state's western coast Wednesday evening. Some of its worst havoc was wrought more than 100 miles away along the state's eastern shore, and that's where all those there were at least 16 hurricane-related deaths, up to 17 now, and that's where all those tornadoes were. Like we said, in St. Lucie, an advanced flurry of tornadoes killed several people, including at least 2 in the senior living Spanish Lakes community, according to local officials. Between Siesta Key and Fort Myers Beach, peak water levels reached 5 to 10 feet above ground level, according to a preliminary analysis posted by the National Hurricane Center. And remember, that the ground was already soaked from Helene too. So, and that just added to the flooding woes there. And if you need help, we've got a pinned post here in the state of Florida. It's 1-800-342-3557. Let's see if I can put that up again. Yeah, so individuals in need of assistance can call the state assistance information there. Otherwise, I think there's some other things in the chat here. I think, Chuck put up some stuff here. WMNFORG. Let's see. I think that's all the ones in there. So, and let me get to this real quick. So this is how you can help. And this is the Tampa Bay Rays stadium that they were talking about. That the roof just got tore the hell up. So, and like we said, about 2.5 to 3 million residents are without power. Here's some more pictures here. And we're not going to get into the gore of all the pictures. I mean, you've pretty much seen a lot of these pictures before. The recovery effort in Florida is underway. Governor DeSantis said National Guard and Coast Guard rescue teams have been operating missions overnight to save individuals and pets. He said power had been restored to more than 635,000 residents as of yesterday. They said nearly 300 shelters were open, supporting more than 80,000 people, and that the Florida Department of Emergency Management had procured and was ready to distribute more than 1.2 million liters of water and more than 670,000 shelf-stable meals. There's that telephone number again for state assistance. On the federal level, maybe, FEMA had provided more than $344 million in federal disaster aid for survivors of Helene, and that more than 8,000 personnel were currently on the ground in the region, including more than 1,000 search and rescue workers to support the response effort for Milton. They've also provided 400 ambulances, 20 helicopters, 60 high water vehicles, as well as 20 million meals and 40 million liters of water, all of which were pre-staged in preparation for the storm. If you need that FEMA site, it's disasterassistance.gov. And other numbers here for residents seeking aid 800-621-3362. Or if you're, I believe this is for the deaf folks, 800-462-7585. So the Florida Disaster Fund is a way for you to help them out. Local aid group Feeding Tampa Bay, the United Way of Florida, Greater Good Charities, Team Rubicon. They provide help by clearing roadways, removing debris. The American Red Cross, although American Red Cross a little on the shady side, so take caution there. Convoy of Hope, humanitarian faith-based organization based out of Springfield, Missouri, have volunteers in Perry, Florida, who've packed more than 3,000 bags of groceries and relief supplies to distribute to those affected by Hurricane Milton, and Airlink, who works with partners to deliver aid and personnel to communities during disasters. Now, Teresa just sent this to me, and I thought this was from Wall Street Apes. So take this as you will. The companies doing the North Carolina Hurricane Helene victims' home inspections listed on the FEMA website are owned by Vanguard and BlackRock. Yes, you know those companies. That's why rents and mortgages are so damn high, because of those guys. So the same company that owns the majority of the lithium mine in the area will be inspecting the victims' properties. What are the odds? They don't want you to pay attention to this one. So who is going to inspect the homes that are damaged or gone in North Carolina? Well, recently bought to me by the American Thinker and my brother Mike. You sent me the story. Yeah. If you go to the FEMA contract page, you will notice, if you search for home inspections, that two companies appear. One is Vanguard and the other one is WSP, who is a Canadian company that is mainly owned by the Canadian Pension Board, right at a little over 18 million shares, representing 15% of its ownership. Now, the other piece of the puzzle of who owns WSP is two companies that we well know, one of them being Vanguard. Oh, by the way, this is all speculation because it's truth, right? You only speculate because it's true. The other company that owns it is Vanguard. They represent almost 3% of the ownership of WSP, right? A little bit over 3 million shares in that company. And the other company is that good old company called BlackRock. So, fuckery is always afoot, especially in situations like this where, if somebody can cash in on a disaster, that's peak 2024, right? Meanwhile, Texas, everything's bigger in Texas. They had two are dead in a chemical release at a Pemex refinery in Texas. 2 people were killed in a chemical release at Pemex's 312,500 barrel per day Deer Park oil refinery in Texas, the county sheriff said. Up to 35 people at the refinery were treated at the plant or taken to area hospitals for exposure to hydrogen sulfide gas, which can be deadly. A state highway next to the refinery was closed for a few hours, and residents in Deer Park were told to shelter inside their homes with air conditioners turned off. The highway has since reopened and the shelter-in-place order lifted. Contractors working at the refinery are believed to have opened a line containing hydrogen sulfide and were killed by exposure to the gas. It's according to 2 people familiar with the plant's operations who spoke on condition of anonymity. Harrison County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said a flange may have opened, releasing the gas. Gonzalez also said it may be 7 or 8 hours before officials can enter the area where the gas was released. Haven't seen an update to that yet. The leak was reported around 4:40 p.m. Central Time. The company said it shut the 92,000 BPD coker and a hydro treater in the refinery after the release began, according to a company statement. Sources said the contractors were performing work on a sulfur recovery unit at the refinery when the release occurred. SRUs convert hydrogen sulfide from the coker and hydro treater into elemental sulfur. Hydrogen sulfide is used by or produced as a byproduct in refineries, according to OSHA. Hydrogen sulfide gas can quickly lead to death if inhaled in very high concentrations. Yeah. So, and this is not too long after that chemical release, that chemical accident. I think it was a fire, I think, in Georgia too. So, and don't forget Palestine, East Palestine, y'all. Remember that with the train that derailed? Uh, Meanwhile, one dead, 12 people trapped 1,000 feet underground at a U.S. mine tourist attraction. Why the hell you want to go to a mine? I don't understand that. One person was dead, 12 others trapped 1,000 feet underground yesterday following an unspecified elevator failure at a former Colorado gold mine that is now a tourist attraction. Another 11 people were rescued from the Molly Kathleen gold mine attraction in Cripple Creek. Up on Cripple Creek, she sends me. Sorry, it's the band. If you've never heard that song. Teller County Sheriff Jason Mikesell told reporters emergency responders were attempting to repair the elevator to bring back the 11 tourists and one tour guide who were trapped. With one tour group below ground, the elevator experienced some type of mechanical failure with another group aboard, resulting in one fatality while 4 other people suffered minor injuries. Mikesell said, without providing details of how the person died. Yeah, you could probably use your imagination there. Meanwhile, Bayer, the Roundup people, it's not just aspirin, folks. Yeah, CBC voter. What's up, buddy? It is the band. That's right. Good. Robbie Robertson. Good group. Bayer must pay $78 million in latest Roundup cancer trial. Oh, Roundup. Yeah, you better round up some money because you're going to have to pay these people. Bayer must pay $78 million to a Pennsylvania man who said he got cancer from using the company's Roundup weed killer, a state court jury in Philadelphia found yesterday. The verdict follows previous consecutive victories for Bayer in that court. The company had won 14 of the previous 20 trials over Roundup, though it has been hit with several massive verdicts in the litigation, including last November for $1.56 billion, later reduced to $611 million, and one in January for $2.25 billion, later reduced to $400 million. No jail time for anybody. Tom Klein and Jason Itkin, lawyers for plaintiff William Mellison and his wife Margaret, said in a statement that Bayer had acted with reckless indifference to people's safety. Ooh, there's a shock. The company still has not gotten the message that it needs to change its ways, they say. The jury awarded $3 million in compensatory damages and $75 million in punitive damages. I wonder if those are going to be reduced as well. We disagree with the jury's verdict as it conflicts with the overwhelming weight of scientific evidence and the consensus of regulatory bodies and their scientific assessments worldwide, Bayer said in a statement as they opened their checkbook. The company said it believed it had a strong argument for reducing the punitive damages on appeal. Probably. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that punitive damages should generally be no more than 9 times compensatory damages. The Mellison sued Bayer in 2021. They alleged that William, like other Roundup plaintiffs, developed a form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from exposure to glyphosate, which was the active ingredient in Roundup sold for home use until last year. Mellison said he used the product at home and at work from 1992 until 2020. When he was diagnosed, he alleges that both glyphosate and another chemical in Roundup causes cancer. Bayer maintains that glyphosate does not cause cancer. Of course they would say that. And that the lawsuits are meritless. It acquired Roundup as part of its $63 billion purchase of the agrochemical company Monsanto in 2018. The German company settled most of the then pending Roundup litigation in 2020 for $10.9 billion, but currently faces about 58,000 claims, according to its most recent financial report. Desert Mantis, you need to change your way too. What's going on, buddy? No sad faces here. I know the news isn't that great, but it's okay. We'll be all right. Bayer won a significant legal victory in August when the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Philadelphia ruled that federal law shields Bayer from state law claims, which conflicts with previous rulings by other federal appeals courts. Bayer has said it will seek to have the U.S. Supreme Court resolve that conflict and that a victory there could effectively end the Roundup litigation. Bayer has asked the Philadelphia State Court to follow the 3rd District and throw out the case. The 3rd District's jurisdiction includes federal courts in Pennsylvania, but state courts are not legally bound to follow it. That bid was denied, allowing the Millicent's case to go to trial, but the company is appealing the denial. That is right. So, Bayer, you bad, bad people, go fuck yourselves. If you bank at TD Bank, guess what? You're banking with a money launderer. What? TD Bank pleads guilty to U.S. charges, faces business restrictions. There we go. 2 TD Bank units have pleaded guilty to U.S. criminal charges and agreed to pay $3 billion, again, no jail time, in combined penalties to resolve federal government probes into money laundering, U.S. authorities have said, making it the largest bank in U.S. history guilty for such violations. I believe HSBC, too, at some point, they had... They were doing money laundering too. This was a few years ago. The plea deal includes imposition of an asset cap and other limitations to its business. Authorities said yesterday it comes after multiple government investigations into what authorities described as pervasive issues at TD Bank. For years, the government said TD ignored red flags from high-risk customers and created a convenient environment for bad actors to exploit. What? A bank? And bad actors? You never hear that. The bank has pleaded guilty to conspiring to launder money and conspiring to fail to file accurate reports or maintain a compliant anti-money laundering program. We tried to not launder money. We really did. TD Bank chose profits over compliance in order to keep its costs down. Attorney General Merrick Garland said at a news conference, he said TD was the largest bank to admit to violating the U.S. Bank Secrecy Act. The cap on its asset expansion in the U.S. imposed by the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, that was my old job, is a rare step typically reserved for severe cases. It would deal a major blow to TD's hopes to expand further in the U.S., which accounts for about a third of the bank's income. TD Bank shares fell almost 5% on Thursday afternoon. But don't worry, it's the stock market. You know that shit always bounces back. So everybody's talking about immigration and the problems that have come with immigration. Now we can all debate how it starts. Some people say they want to come. I think Thomas Massey, the congressman who's supposed to have be the most level-headed conservative in Congress, said that they're just here to get our free stuff. Yeah, we can't even get our free stuff. How the hell these people are supposed to get it? Although some of them are, if you're from certain countries around the world. But it's also the foreign policy of the United States, too, that imposes their will, coups their leaders there that are elected democratically, and causes countries like Libya to turn into an open-air slave market. And so, but if you remember DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, that may be in jeopardy pretty soon. So fate of U.S. Dreamers is before an appeals court again. The United States Federal Appeals Court is considering the fate of a program that currently allows more than 500,000 undocumented immigrants brought to the country as children to live and work without fear of deportation. The New Orleans-based Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit heard arguments on Thursday in the latest chapter of a years-long legal saga over the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals policy, or DACA, which was first introduced by President Barack Obama back in 2012. I say, I will put DACA in there, and I'm gonna bomb the shit out of these countries. At stake is the future of about 535,000 people who have long established lives in the U.S., even though they do not hold citizenship or legal residency status, and could eventually be deported. DACA, which since its inception has shielded from deportation more than 800,000 Dreamers, as the program's recipients are known, have been life-changing for countless numbers of them, with the first cohorts now in their 40s and having established families and careers in the U.S. I live here, I work here, I own a home here, said Maria Rocha Carrillo, who traveled from her home in New York to join some 200 demonstrators outside the court on Thursday and was on the front row of a packed courtroom as the hearing started. Rocha Carrillo said she was brought to the U.S. at age 3 when family members immigrated from Mexico, where she was born. She could not get a teaching certificate until DACA allowed her to build a career in education. Every family should be able to live in safety and stability. Today, anti-immigrant forces are taking to the Fifth Circuit Court to try to bring down DACA. U.S. Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, one of the dozens of U.S. legislators to speak in favor of the program, wrote on social media yesterday, the court has one real choice: to keep families and communities together. But the program has been under attack from conservatives since its inception. During his first term in office, former President Donald Trump announced an end to it, setting off a lengthy legal battle that made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled that Dreamers already covered under DACA were able to maintain their temporary protections and continue to apply to renew them for additional 2-year terms. New applicants have been largely unable to obtain protection since 2017. President Joe Biden again relaunched the program in hopes of winning court approval, but a federal judge ruled that the executive branch had overstepped its authority and barred the government from approving new applications. Opponents of the policy, such as Texas and 8 other Republican-dominated states which brought the case before the court yesterday, have said in legal arguments that they incur hundreds of millions of dollars in health care, education, and other costs when immigrants are allowed to remain in the country illegally. Other critics of the program, such as the conservative Immigration Reform Law Institute, or EARLY, have argued that the matter should be decided by legislators rather than the executive. Judges on the panel gave no indication of when or how they would rule. The fate of the program's remaining protections will almost certainly wind up before the U.S. Supreme Court again. So, yeah. And like I said, I'm sure you have your opinions on immigration and whatnot, but these are real people. And a lot of them fleeing for their lives from these countries. This country used to be called a melting pot, and now it's just basically melting, boiling over, if you will. Our government is pretty shady, as most of you fine folks know. And the deep state is no exception. And apparently there's some disgusting shit going on there as well, more so than usual. So the CIA involved in sex crime scandal, according to CNN. There it is, the CIA. Nearly a third of CIA employees have reported experiencing inappropriate sexual conduct in the workplace at least once during their careers, according to the agency's first internal survey shared exclusively with CNN. The outlet indicated that the CIA is experiencing its own #MeToo moment, referencing the public movement against sexual harassment in the entertainment industry that started in 2017 and led to the conviction and imprisonment of film mogul Harvey Weinstein. We are not where we need to be, and I don't need a survey to tell me that, CIA Chief Operating Officer Mara Burns, not related to director William Burns or Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Simpson, excellent. She told CNN. Only a quarter of the agency's employees took part in the voluntary survey. Among those who did, 28% reported experiencing, quote, at least one instance of a sexually hostile work environment, unquote, during their time at the CIA, while 9% encountered such an incident in the past year alone. CNN has observed that this rate is just slightly higher than the national average, but lower than the figures reported by the U.S. military. Because, the military. The outlet highlighted 2 significant cases that indicate a deep-rooted cultural problem within the agency based in Langley, Virginia. One officer who was stationed in Europe until recently is accused of knowingly infecting at least 5 women with an STD. He remains employed at the agency, currently working at headquarters, while an internal investigation is going on. That's right, because when you investigate yourself, chances are you're going to go to jail. Wait, what? A female contractor has also accused a senior CIA officer of coercing her into sexual relations, claiming he visited her home with a firearm and presented her with a knife as a threat while on CIA premises, according to a federal lawsuit. Two sources confirmed CNN to CNN that the officer in question has since been fired. Last month, a federal court in Virginia sentenced a former CIA officer to 30 years in prison. I think we had that story. Charges including sexual abuse, abusive sexual contact, coercion, and enticement, and the transportation of obscene material. Brian Jeffrey Raymond pleaded guilty to raping 4 women, sexually abusing 6 more, and capturing explicit photographs of 28 female victims during his more than 10 years stationed in various Latin American countries. To address the issue within the agency, Mara Burns has reportedly established a sexual harassment, assault response, and prevention office. During a town hall on September 25th, Burns and Sharp, that's that office, Director Dr. Talita Jackson, provided guidance to officers on how to report incidents of sexual harassment while safeguarding their cover and classified information. That's the thing. It's like they can't put the stuff on Front Street, because then they'd be putting themselves on Front Street and outing themselves as spooks, as it were, and they don't tend to do that. Go call the police. The cover issue we will fix. Don't worry about that, Burns told the town hall. According to a complaint filed by one alleged victim in June, a CIA employee claimed she was instructed by management to lie to the police about both her and her attacker's affiliation with the agency, as well as about the alleged assault occurring on agency premises. The employee, identified as Danielle Sparks, stated that if she did not comply, she would be accused of mishandling classified information. Yeah. So the CIA, the deep state, is the dark state as well. This what's going on in the Middle East. Sorry, I have to have some liquor. I heard it makes your Jimmy thicker. I don't know what that means. I'm not from the streets. So good. Delicious. You say, man, all these wars around the world. What's going on? Well, wait, what is that? Is that the sound of a cash register? I believe it is. U.S. arms dealers witness record profits from Israel's year-long genocide in Gaza, war on Lebanon. See, I wonder. How do those, why do they make so much money? U.S. arms manufacturers have outperformed major stock indices. This says indexes. I think they're supposed to be indices. This year, in a rally fueled by Israel's year-long genocide of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and the expansion of its war against Lebanon. This is a part of the show where I'm probably going to get booted off Facebook. But you know what? Chicken in a bucket, fuck it. Stock funds with holdings in the U.S. aerospace and defense industry, including companies like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, RTX, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, and L3 Harris, saw their profits soar past expectations this year, outperforming the S&P 500 index. That handout of taxpayer funds to Israel, coupled with Israel's and global demand increasing for weapons in a period of instability, has been jet fuel for stock prices, reports Responsible Statecraft. Lockheed Martin, makers of the F-35 aircraft that Israel has used to relentlessly bomb Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen, produced a 54.86% total return from October 7, 2023 to the same date in 2024, outperforming S&P 500 by about 18%. RTX, the makers of 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs that turned most of Gaza to rubble and are currently being dropped inside the Lebanese capital, saw its total return for investors in the past year reach 82.69%. outperforming S&P by about 46%. General Dynamics, with ultra manufacturers bunker busters, that's a tongue twister, and is behind the BLU-109 bombs that Israel used to level several apartment buildings in the southern suburbs of Beirut during the assassination of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, delivered a 37% total return, outperforming S&P by just over 3%. On October 1st, as Israel pushed forward with its ground invasion of Lebanon and Iran launched hundreds of ballistic missiles in retaliation for the bombing of its capital. Forbes reported that the stocks of most U.S. arm makers gained over 2.6% in value. Max Sarge, what's going on? Tuning Fork Vancouver on the Facebooks. What's up? Hey, there's actually somebody watching on Facebook. Welcome. Both Lockheed Martin and RTX shares booked all-time highs on Tuesday, while L3 Harris and Northrop Grumman tallied their top share price since 2022, the U.S. financial publication reported. Furthermore, the BlackRock managed iShares U.S. Aerospace and Defense Fund, indexing the aerospace and defense sector, hit a new all-time high last week, extending its 12-month gain to 43% and outperforming the S&P by 33%. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, between 2019 and 2023, Israel accounted for 2.1% of all global arms imports. During the same period, the U.S. accounted for 69% giggity of Israel's arms imports, while Germany accounted for 30%. As Washington retains its long-standing hold as the world's largest arms dealer, controlling 42% of the global arms market, the country has also significantly boosted its military spending to assist Israel, blowing through at least $23 billion in 1 year. Probably some information you knew, you probably just didn't know the specifics of it. But now you know the rest of the story. So, you know, they need those bombs because they're ready to bomb Iran. You remember that? John McCain and his idiot daughter. Biden and Netanyahu closer to consensus on attacking Iran. This is from Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. Be sure to check out antiwar.com. A lot of good independent journalism going on there, pulling from various resources around the world, as does this show. President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister and human thumbtack Benjamin Netanyahu moved closer to an understanding on Israel's plans to attack Iran during their phone call on Wednesday. That's according to Axios, who reported this yesterday. The report, which cited U.S. and Israeli officials, said that the U.S. had accepted Israel is going to launch a major attack on Iran soon, and is only concerned that striking certain types of targets could dramatically escalate things. However, Iran has vowed it will respond to any type of Israeli attack, and the situation could easily turn into a full-blown war that would involve the U.S. And in another story I read today, too, Iran said, and if you launch missiles from any of these other, like from these allied states in the region, yeah, they're gonna get it too. An Israeli official told Axios that the Israeli plans are still a bit more aggressive than the U.S. would like. Yeah, right. The U.S. has been warning against striking nuclear facilities or oil infrastructure, and recent media reports have said Israel will likely target military infrastructure. But if it's Israel, of course, they're going to go after civilians too. Netanyahu convened his security cabinet yesterday to brief them on the situation with the U.S. and is expected to get approval for him and Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant to set a timeline for the Israeli attack. The Times of Israel reported that the U.S. and Israel will continue conversation on the plans in the coming days, signaling the attack is not imminent, which it could be. I mean, why would you say it's not imminent? Nah, we're not going to do it yet. But Iran said that too, or Hezbollah said that. They said, yeah, we're not going to do it yet. But eventually they did. NBC News reported Tuesday that the U.S. was considering supporting Israel's attack with direct airstrikes of its own, although U.S. officials said intelligence support was more likely. The Jerusalem Post reported that the U.S. was offering Israel a compensation package. We told you that if it only hits certain targets and not any of the U.S.-approved targets. So, like, basically saying, don't hit our shit, all right? And I believe Israel said, we'll see. So they're getting closer and closer to doing that with Iran. And, I'm pretty sure that the regional war is going to happen, especially if these bomb and weapons makers have anything to say about it. And, of course, they always do. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, of course, Israel continuing its assault. At least 22 killed, dozens wounded in Israeli strikes on Lebanon's Beirut. Israeli airstrikes on central Beirut have killed 22 people, wounded at least 117. That's according to Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health. Videos published by local news channels and verified by Al Jazeera's fact-checking agency Sanad show chaotic scenes in the aftermath of Thursday's attacks on Ras El Nabah and Al Nuwairi in Beirut. The strikes appear to have hit densely populated residential areas as flames and smoke rose from 2 residential blocks. Many residents left their apartments in the high-rise blocks in the area and gathered in courtyards as emergency services rushed to the scene. The area is outside the city's southern suburbs, where attacks by Israeli forces regularly occur. Reporting from Beirut, Al Jazeera's Laura Khan said the attacks took place in the heart of the Lebanese capital, where many of the displaced took shelter over the past few weeks. Many people who had fled southern Lebanon had found shelter here, and it's just becoming traumatizing, unpredictable, and dangerous. The injured were brought to local hospitals, which sent out a warning asking people not to donate blood because they were already overwhelmed by the number of casualties and the inflow of family members. Al Jazeera correspondents on the ground said a family of 5 people that fled southern Lebanon was killed alongside 3 relatives who were hosting them. Of course, they've got to keep hammering on Gaza, too. So Israeli strike kills 28 Palestinians sheltering at a school in Gaza. Because, kids, if you didn't know, schools are Hamas. On Thursday, Israeli strikes targeted a school-turned-shelter for displaced Palestinians in Deir al-Balah, central Gaza, killing at least 28 and wounding 54. Gaza's health ministry said the number of dead and wounded was based on bodies and injured people who were brought to hospitals and morgues, meaning the toll could rise. The breakdown of the casualties is unclear, but footage and photos of the aftermath of the attack show many women and children were killed and wounded. Children and women were torn to pieces by the intensity of the strike, according to Al Jazeera. The reporter Tarek Abu Azum, I saw with my own eyes lots of bodies that were torn to pieces, making it quite hard to identify them unless family members managed to find out who they were from some signs in their clothing in the hospital morgue. Nahed al-Zanin, a Palestinian who teaches displaced children at tents outside of the Rafadi school, told Middle East Eye that he was just meters away from the blast. He said, I get out and all I see is shreds of bodies all over the floor, heads blown up, innocent children scattered across the floor. You get the gist. So, yeah, and this is just going to keep going because it is, it makes money. It makes money for people, and Israel is a psychopathic country full of genociders and brainwashed people. Meanwhile, there's a UN inquiry. They're accusing Israel of extermination in Gaza. Sounds like it to me. A UN inquiry has accused Israel of extermination and war crimes over its destruction of Gaza's medical system. Navi Pillay, a former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights and chair of the inquiry, said Israel had carried out relentless and deliberate attacks on medical personnel and facilities since October 2023. Children in particular have borne the brunt of these attacks, suffering both directly and indirectly from the collapse of the health system. Pillay will present a full report on the issue to the UN General Assembly on October 30th. The World Health Organization said yesterday that 2 missions to war-ravaged northern Gaza have been impeded and denied by Israel. And the world is reacting, too, to UN troops coming under fire and renewed shelling by Israeli army in South Lebanon. Multiple countries, including allies of the United States, have condemned this shelling. So 2 soldiers from the UN interim forces in Lebanon, that's UNIFIL, were injured, one of them critically after an Israeli tank opened fire at one of the international mission's observation towers in Nakora, South Lebanon. Friday's attack marks the 3rd day in a row that UNIFIL forces have been deliberately targeted by the invading army. Yesterday, at least 2 other UN soldiers were injured by an Israeli attack. You may remember there was like some congressman or something was talking about some of the Irish UN soldiers there and said that they should carpet bomb the Irish. And, oh, you don't want to piss off the Irish. They asked the English about that. UN peacekeeping forces have also become targets of Israeli attacks. This, as we all understand, is a war crime and deserves our most decisive response. That's according to Russia's permanent representative to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, said during a session of the UN Security Council yesterday. 2 blue helmets have been wounded, and blue helmets is the UNIFIL people. And this is unacceptable. Any deliberate attack on peacekeepers is a grave violation of international humanitarian law and of the UNSC, that's the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701. Israel has an obligation to respect both. Fully accountability is needed, as according to UN Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell. He said on some social media thing. The resolution gives UNIFIL a mandate to keep Lebanon's southern border with Israel free of weapons or armed personnel other than those of the Lebanese state. Tel Aviv acknowledged opening fire at a UN base in Nakora yesterday and said it had ordered the UN troops to remain in protected spaces. Same thing they do with the Palestinian people. Here, go to the safe place, and then they bomb it. Hezbollah said earlier this week that Israel is using the UN troops as human shields and vowed not to target the invading troops for fear of injuring UNIFIL personnel. Yeah, we told you about that on Wednesday. During the UNSC session on Thursday, UN Undersecretary General for Peace Operations Jean-Pierre Lacroix told authorities that 300 UN troops in frontline positions in South Lebanon have been temporarily moved to larger bases. With complete support from the U.S. government, Israel has been laying siege to Lebanon for the past several weeks, relentlessly bombing the capital, Beirut, and you know all that stuff. So, Kate, you're like all over the place. You're on the Facebooks now too. That's a nice picture of you on Facebook. Well, you're a pretty lady anyway, so. So yeah. And this is a fun one. In irony of ironies, the Israel army fears that soldiers' phones are being tracked by Hezbollah. So that's how 2024 is shaping up, y'all. The Israeli military is investigating claims that personal phones used by its troops in southern Lebanon are being hacked by Hezbollah to locate and target the invading force. The 36th Division's probe 36th Division's probe comes after soldiers in the elite Golani Brigade filmed themselves hoisting an Israeli flag in the village of Marun el-Ras in Tabatia. Israel's top military brass are concerned that Hezbollah could be using Iranian-supplied equipment to locate the exact positions of Israeli soldiers via their mobile phone signals, enabling precision attacks on the troops. The report noted that the Israeli military has ordered soldiers to leave phones in Israel during the invasion of South Lebanon, but that the order is not being followed or strictly implemented because of a decline in military discipline. And there was another story, I don't have it in here, but it's basically there's like a few hundred IDF soldiers who are protesting and threatening to walk off the job if the hostages situation isn't settled. One Israeli military source told Yedioth Aharonoth that only verbal warnings have been given to soldiers disobeying the order, noting that this is a continuation of practices in Gaza. I mean, if they don't bring their phones, how are they going to brag about killing children? Israeli soldiers in the Gaza Strip frequently post videos of themselves destroying infrastructure, spraying pro-Israel or anti-Palestinian graffiti on buildings, or ransacking Palestinian homes. Don't forget the killing kids part. The incident in Marun el-Ras saw Israeli soldiers destroy the so-called Iranian Garden, which had images of former IRGC Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani and Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei displayed there. The footage was broadcast by the Israeli Broadcasting Authority. So they're like, you need to leave your phones at home. And they're like, but I want to brag about genocide. Come on. Historic ICC, International Criminal Court, war crimes complaint names 1,000 Israeli soldiers. Speaking of the IDF, a Belgium-based advocacy group on Tuesday announced it filed an unprecedented and historic complaint with the ICC against 1,000 Israeli occupation force soldiers for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide in Gaza, where more than 150,000 Palestinians have been killed or wounded, and millions more displaced, starved, and sickened by Israel's year-long onslaught. The Hind Rajab Foundation, named after the 6-year-old Palestinian girl who was killed in January, along with half a dozen relatives and rescue workers by Israeli troops invading Gaza in retaliation for the October 2023 attack, said that the Israel Defense Forces, IDF personnel, identified by name in the ICC complaint, are accused of participating in systematic attacks against civilians during the ongoing genocide in Gaza. This complaint, supported by over 8,000 pieces of verifiable evidence, including videos, audio recordings, forensic reports, and social media documentation, demonstrates the soldiers' direct involvement in these atrocities. The group explained all of the named soldiers were located in Gaza during the genocidal assault, and the evidence reveals their participation in violations of international law. The foundation accuses Israeli forces of destruction of civilian infrastructure, as targeted attacks on homes, hospitals, schools, markets, mosques, and other civilian infrastructure. Illegal occupation and looting. Soldiers were documented occupying civilian homes, looting personal belongings, and exploiting occupied properties. Participation in the Gaza blockade. The soldiers played an active role in enforcing a blockade that deprived civilians of essential goods such as food, water, and medical supplies. Targeting civilians, audio and video evidence show soldiers deliberately attacking non-combatant individuals, including medical personnel and journalists, and the use of inhumane warfare tactics, indiscriminate bombing campaigns, starvation, and the systematic destruction of civilian infrastructure were all part of their actions. The IDF soldiers identified in the complaint include at least 12 American, 12 French, 4 Canadian, 3 British, and 2 Dutch nationals. Shocking. I know, you are shocked. This complaint is not only the largest ever submitted to the ICC, but it is also a milestone in documenting Israeli war crimes for future generations, the Hind Rajab Foundation said. By meticulously identifying the perpetrators and detailing their crimes, we are establishing a historical record that will ensure the individuals responsible are remembered and held accountable. Excuse me. And there's more to this story and to the other stories too. Just remember, like after the show, I'll have a link to a Google Drive document that has all of the news links, so you can read over these more in detail yourself. I'm just trying to hit the highlights, as it were. Old people, women, children, and of course journalists always get targeted. Palestinian journalists in northern Gaza targeted by Israeli drone as siege intensifies. Because we don't want you telling the truth. We'll have more on that later with a certain journalist that got arrested. A group of Palestinian journalists were hit in an Israeli drone strike on Wednesday while reporting in northern Gaza, the second attack on media workers in the besieged enclave over the past week. Al Jazeera Arabic cameraman Fadi Al-Widi was reportedly shot in the neck by an Israeli quadcopter as the team was working in the Jabalia camp in northern Gaza, which has been beset by heavy fighting after Israel launched a ground invasion earlier this week. Al-Widi is being treated for serious injuries in hospital. His Al Jazeera Arabic colleague Anas Al-Sharif told reporters. Earlier this week, another Al Jazeera cameraman, Ali Al-Attar, was hit by shrapnel and is in critical condition at the European Gaza hospital, his colleagues said. There are international calls for his immediate evacuation from Gaza so he could receive urgent medical care. Hospitals in Gaza are struggling to cope with the siege on the enclave, mass casualties, and repeated eviction orders by Israeli forces. And at least 128 journalists have been killed by Israeli fire since the war began last year, marking the highest number of media workers to have been killed in a conflict since records began. That's according to the Committee to Protect Journalists, the CPJ. So yeah, everybody's getting hit. The things are crumbling for Israel as far as the propaganda war is concerned. So they're going after everybody. And this is just a personal note. I think the troops that are taking their phones, and they're saying that Hezbollah is tracking them through the phones, but really they're saying don't bring your phones and don't document this shit because we're just going to end up in court over this. Preferably The Hague, but if the U.S. is involved, well, you know how that goes. We had talked about on the show about the universities around the country who are barring protests and vigils. Well, now one U.S. university is getting sued, or at least has a complaint filed against it. Rights group files complaint against U.S. university over failure to protect Muslim and Arab students. A leading Muslim American civil rights group filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education against the University of Michigan, calling on the agency to investigate whether or not the institution has failed to protect Palestinian, Arab, Muslim, and South Asian students from discrimination on campus. A federal complaint filed Wednesday from the Michigan chapter of CARE, that's the Council on American Islamic Relations, comes after a student group leaked an audio recording in which it is purportedly President Santa Ono saying that schools are being pressured to address reports of anti-Semitism on campus more urgently than Islamophobia. In the leaked recording, the speaker alludes to the notion that the government could pressure the university by withholding federal funding. That's what they usually do. To have the government say that we will withhold your $2 billion in federal funding if you don't address anti-Semitism, Ono reportedly said in the recording leaked by the Tahrir Coalition on October 6th. The government could call me tomorrow and say in a very unbalanced way the university is not doing enough to combat anti-Semitism. The person added that he could respond by saying that the university is not doing enough to combat Islamophobia, and that's not what they want to hear, so the whole situation is not balanced. Further into the recording, it's unclear whether the comments were made at the same time and place as the previous comments. The speaker says there are, quote, are powerful groups, unquote, attempting to hold U.S. universities accountable for not addressing anti-Semitism, adding that congressional hearings related to university campuses are focused almost entirely on anti-Semitism. You remember Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana was grilling someone. I can't remember the lady, but he kept saying, do you support Hamas? Do you support Hamas? He just kept saying that over and over. And I'm just like, you fucking cult, bought and paid for AIPAC piece of shit. Middle East Eye contacted the university for comment on the complaint and the leaked audio, but didn't receive a response by the time of publication. It probably won't either. The University of Michigan was one of many universities where students set up encampments on campus this past spring semester to protest against the Israeli war on Gaza and demand their institution divest investments in companies profiting off the war on Gaza and occupation of Palestine. In May, police dressed in riot gear cleared the encampments, used pepper spray on protesters, and arrested several people. So that's the thing. They're saying, well, these 4 people that are Jewish on campus, they're scared. Why aren't you doing something for that? Oh, well, these few hundred, Muslims, though, and that's what they're doing. It just keeps going that way. They try to pound you and pound you and pound you, and that's why we try to provide you with these alternative news sources, because the mainstream media is just going to push that propaganda and make it sound like that these Jewish students are in fear for their lives. Maybe some of them are, and maybe it is related to it, but it's not. It's nothing close to what these Muslim and Arab folks are dealing with as well. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, they're having trouble. Their miners are being attacked over there, not the children, but the people in the mines. At least 20 killed in an attack on miners in southwestern Pakistan, that's according to the police. And this is in Quetta, Pakistan. At least 20 miners were killed and 7 injured in an attack by armed men on a small private coal mine in the southwestern Pakistani province of Balochistan today, according to police. And today it means it's like, wow, it happened right now. No, this is like, remember, they're in the future with the flying cars. The mineral-rich region borders Afghanistan and Iran and has been troubled for decades as Baloch insurgent groups fight against the state, saying it denies them their share of regional resources. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. A group of armed men attacked the Junaid coal company mines in the Dookie area. Don't laugh. In the wee hours, they put Dookie and wee in the same. Come on, using heavy weapons, said Humayun Khan, the police station house officer for the town located east of the city of Quetta. They fired rockets and grenades at the miners as well. The attackers gathered the miners at one place and opened fire on them, according to local media, adding that they also set mining machinery on fire. There are 10 coal mines located in the area, a company official told local media. We have received 20 bodies and 6 injured so far at the district hospital, said a doctor in Dookie. Pakistan's seen a resurgence of Islamist militancy since 2022, when a ceasefire between the Pakistani Taliban and the government broke down. Yeah, so a lot of craziness going on around the world, folks. Stay safe if you're out there. Getting back to journalists being persecuted or prosecuted in this case. This is from The Diplomat. Trial of 11 journalists in Kyrgyzstan ends in prison sentences and acquittals. So nearly 9 months after the Kyrgyz authorities took 11 journalists associated with Temirov Live into custody, a court in Bishkek announced its verdict. 2 of the journalists charged with organizing or aiding in calls for mass unrest were sentenced to prison terms. 2 others were handed probation terms, and the remaining 7 were acquitted. Prosecutors had asked for 6-year sentences for all 11 defendants in a case that has drawn widespread criticism from media and human rights advocates. These charges are nothing more than a politically motivated attempt to suppress free speech and punish journalists for their work. That's according to Denis Krivoshev, Amnesty International's acting director for Eastern Europe and Central Asia, said in a statement ahead of the verdict. The Committee to Protect Journalists, the CPJ, you know those people, has advocated for dropping the charges against the journalists since their arrest in January and September. In a September 26 statement, CPJ's Europe and Central Asia Program Coordinator Gulnoza Said warned the conviction of even a single one of the 11 Temirov Live investigative journalists on such clearly contrived and retaliatory charges would deal a further severe blow to Kyrgyzstan's international reputation. The International Partnership for Human Rights said in a September 30th briefing, the media climate in Kyrgyzstan, once relatively free, has deteriorated significantly due to government raids, arrests of journalists, forced media closure initiatives, and blocking of news sites. So the Nuclear Five, if you haven't caught that show, I'm pretty sure you can stream their concert. Russia says Nuclear Five states to meet soon in New York. Who? What? I thought they weren't welcome here. A group of 5 nuclear weapon states will hold a meeting in New York in the next 2 weeks. Russian state media quoted Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov as saying yesterday, the group brings together Russia, the United States, China, France, and Britain, all of which are nuclear-armed states. Wait, where's Israel? They're not in there? And permanent members of the UN Security Council. Ryabkov did not announce a specific date or say what level of officials would attend. I'm pretty sure Putin's not going to show up. The meeting is potentially significant because of a significant escalation in nuclear tensions between Russia and the West since the start of the Ukraine war. President Vladimir Putin said last month announced changes to Russia's nuclear doctrine. We told you about that, saying Moscow was extending the list of scenarios that could prompt it to consider firing a nuclear weapon. In January 2022, weeks before Putin sent his army into Ukraine, the Nuclear Five issued a joint statement saying they considered the avoidance of war between nuclear powers and the reduction of strategic risks to be their foremost priorities. We affirm that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, they said at the same time. Yeah. So, that's the big fear too, is everybody's talking about, well, World War III is going to happen. It's all going to be nukes. And it's just like in the 80s. Everybody's talking like they did in the 80s. It's wild. Some things never change. So Russia's also calling on their BRICS partners to create an alternative to the International Monetary Fund. Russia, which chairs the BRICS group this year, has called on its partners to create an alternative to the IMF to counter political pressure from Western nations ahead of the BRICS summit later this month. If you not know what BRICS, the founding members are Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and expanded includes South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. Top BRICS finance and central bank officials are meeting in Moscow this week. Russian Finance Minister Anton Siluanov, who is hosting the meeting, said the global financial system is controlled by Western countries and that the group, which represents 37% of the global economy, needs to create an alternative. The IMF and the World Bank are not performing their roles. They're not working in the interest of BRICS countries, he said in an event on the first day of the meeting. It's necessary to form new conditions or even new institutions similar to the Bretton Woods institutions, but within the framework of our community, within the framework of BRICS, he added. Russia had its forex reserves in dollars and euros frozen and its financial system heavily hit by sanctions by the West after it invaded Ukraine. The country is cut off from international capital markets. Yeah, so, and Ukraine is probably going to have to wait on some cash till after the U.S. election. How about that? This is from Kyle Anzalone. You know this guy. From the Libertarian Institute. That's another fine media organization there. Check out the stories that they have there. They do a little more in-depth journalism there. The Hungarian government, Hungary may delay G7's $50 billion loan to Ukraine. The Hungarian government announced it will seek to prevent a vote on the European Union's participation in a $50 billion Group of Seven loan to Ukraine. The G7 will use frozen Russian funds to pay off the loans. Finance Minister Mihaly Varga explained that Budapest wants the issue decided within the EU after the U.S. election. We believe that this issue, the prolongation of the Russian sanctions, should be decided after the U.S. elections. We have to see in which direction the future U.S. administration is going with this issue. The $50 billion loan is a scheme devised by Washington and its allies in the G7 to give Ukraine a significant influx of cash without it coming directly from a Western government. The terms of the loan call for Ukraine to receive $50 billion, and then G7 countries that freeze a collective $200 billion in frozen Russian funds will use the interest generated to pay off the loan. However, Moscow's money is frozen as part of the EU sanctions on Russia. Those sanctions are renewed every 6 months, and the loans will take several years to pay off. The White House has refused to sign off on the loan until the EU extends the duration of the sanctions on Russia for at least 3 years. Earlier this month, Western officials said they believe the loan could be approved sometime this month, meaning Kiev would have access to the funds by the end of the year. Budapest bloc will push the loan back at least a week. And if you Yeah, this is it right here. It's unclear what Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban hopes will change by delaying the loan for a few weeks. Orban has attempted to create the conditions for Russia and Ukraine to come to the negotiation table with little success. The Hungarian leader has spoken with former President Donald Trump and believes he may attempt to end the conflict between Moscow and Kiev if he returns to office. That's the thing. Whoever wins this election will have a hand in whether this war is going to end quickly or not, because Ukraine is going to be lights out if they lose all that money, and especially if it's delayed, because they're down weapons, they're down people, and it's not looking good for them. So, and this delay is probably going to further exasperate this situation. I hope I said the right word. But that's okay. They're still waiting for Russia to invade other countries. I don't think they're going to do that, but France is not taking any chances. France to send thousands of troops to Romania to look for vampires. Wait, what? No. For major NATO military drills. And this is one where it's stuck in the mud there. France doubled its contribution to the NATO response force in Romania back in February 2022, just 4 days after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, sending 350 additional soldiers. Okay, just want to make sure this is right. Additional soldiers, as well as a dozen armored vehicles and a dozen Leclerc tanks. Since May 2022, the deployed force, operating under the name Mission Eagle, which is also my porn name, has taken the form of a multinational battle group of which France is the core. France also deploys a Mamba ground-to-air defense system. Mother likes Mamba. Logistics and fighting units totaling more than 1,000 French soldiers. Last month, additional vehicles from the French 7th Armored Brigade arrived in Romania. In total, 8 Leclerc tanks and 6 armed personnel carriers reached the army camp General Berthelot just outside Bucharest, escorted by Romanian military police. The logistics are designed to support Mission Eagle's participation in the Dacian Fall 24 and Dacian Spring 25 military exercises planned for next autumn and spring. Exercises like Dacian Spring send a strategic message in reinforcing the alliance's resolve and capabilities. We used to play war, General Bertrand Toulouse was quoted as saying, Politico. Now there's a designated enemy, and we train with the people with whom we actually go to war. And then he ate a bagel, a French croissant thing, whatever they eaten. According to Politico, France's land forces have started a profound transformation to be ready for a high-intensity conflict similar to the war in Ukraine. Quoting the French Defense Ministry, Politico says that the French army has new marching orders from NATO, meaning by 2027 it should be able to deploy a war-ready division in 30 days, only to surrender, because that's what France does very well. The upcoming exercise in Romania serves as an intermediate step towards this goal, with the French army testing its ability to deploy a brigade, typically 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers within a 10-day window. A division consists of between 10,000 to as many as 25,000 soldiers. So, and this is kind of a scare tactic too, because what will happen is they'll try to provoke Russia into attacking a country that attacks them first. And then once that happens, they're like, oh, see, look, Putin is he's trying to get more territory for himself, mon ami. You may remember Nelson Mandela during the apartheid that was going on in South Africa. Well, his grandson is touring, but he's not going to the UK. Mandela's grandson said he was prevented from entering the UK for Palestine events. As you know, South Africa supports Palestine. Chaos has erupted after a major 9-date speaking tour by Nelson Mandela's grandson was thrown into doubt when he did not receive a UK visa in time for his flight. Mandela has reportedly canceled his flight to the UK, where he was due to address a series of pro-Palestine events in 8 cities: that's Sheffield, Manchester, Edinburgh, Dundee, Aberdeen, Glasgow, Bristol, and Brighton, including one alongside Labour MPs. He had been expected to speak in person at an event in Sheffield yesterday evening to kick off a speaking tour seen as a major event for the British pro-Palestinian activist movement. It seems that there are those who are intent on preventing me from being physically with you in Britain, he said on Thursday, adding that the struggle against apartheid and against colonization cannot be stopped or silenced. He's still expected to visit Dublin in Ireland, where his visa requirement to enter has been waived. Mandela, the grandson of former South African President Nelson Mandela, was a member of Parliament in the South Africa National Assembly until May this year. A group called Sheffield Palestine Coalition Against Israel Apartheid said on Thursday morning that Mandela has been prevented from traveling to the UK. According to the organization, British officials had initially told him that his South African government passport did not require a visa to enter the UK. However, on Monday, Mandela, that's his first name, was informed that he did require a visa because the British said, "Oh, you didn't say, Simon says." The organization said that by contrast, the Irish government has waived the visa requirement for him. It's unclear whether, as a former MP, Mandela would still possess a diplomatic passport. The standard processing time for a UK standard visitor visa is usually around 3 weeks. A Home Office spokesperson told Middle East Eye, the UK has robust safeguards to ensure visas are only issued to those who we want to welcome to our country. Kind of spilling the beans there. This comes after a report in the Times last Saturday which said that the Home Office faced questions about whether Mandela should be granted a visa because of his inflammatory rhetoric. The report quoted Andrew Fox, a research fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, a right-wing think tank, who said, Mr. Mandela has been quite open about his support of Hamas. He has also praised Hezbollah and has close links to the Iranian regime whilst trading on his grandfather's name. It is quite demonstrably against the UK's national interest to allow into the country someone who openly praises our terrorist enemies, a number of whom are prescribed under the Terrorism Act. Yeah, and that's what they've been doing to protesters too. You know, people who've been carrying the, Palestinian flags or Hamas, or Hezbollah, saying you're supporting terrorism by, just showing a flag. UK needs to shut the fuck up and take care of their people. Their priorities are kind of whack. 3 million UK children living below the poverty line in the UK. A record 9.3 million people, including 3 million children, are facing hunger and hardship in the UK. That's according to a study Wednesday with the new Labour government under pressure to do more to tackle child poverty. The findings come before the government's first budget later this month and with a cost of living crisis that has driven soaring use of food banks, according to the report by a non-governmental organization, the Trussell Trust, an NGO. Almost a quarter of children under 4 are facing extreme poverty. A quarter of children facing extreme poverty. Shockingly, 46% more children are facing hunger and hardship than 2 decades ago. That equates to 1 in 5 children growing up trapped in this situation, the Trust said in a statement. A UNICEF report last year found that the UK, a G7 and NATO member and the world's 6th biggest economy, has one of the highest rates of child poverty among richer countries. The Trussell Trust said that without urgent action from Prime Minister and former Flock of Seagulls frontman Keir Starmer's government, the numbers facing hunger and hardship, defined as living 25% below the poverty line, would rise further. Hey, Yona, good to see you, buddy. The charity defined the poverty line as $199 a week for someone living on their own, and that's 152 pounds, and 204 pounds for a single parent with 1 child. This includes paying electricity, water, and property tax bills, as well as food. Removing a 2-child benefit cap, meaning families cannot claim state subsidies for a 3rd child born after April 2017, is one of the measures that could ease poverty levels, the Trust said. Labor, however, has refused to abolish it in its teeth of fierce opposition from campaigners, unions, and some of its own lawmakers. Finance Minister Rachel Reeves has said she will not be able to reverse the cap in her October 30 budget due to what Labor claims is a 22 billion pound or $28.8 billion American black hole left by the last conservative government. Yeah, so of course they're playing politics with this. And who suffers? Poor people, particularly children. Yeah, we're on Facebook today until I get my account canceled for telling the truth about all this stuff. So if you're on Facebook and watching this, enjoy it today because I may not be here tomorrow. Oh, excuse me. I think I'm going to destroy this chair at some point. And it's not just poverty that is affecting people. You know, we told you about the sexual allegations with the CIA. Well, it's a worldwide epidemic when it comes to that. So over 79 million girls in sub-Saharan Africa raped, sexually assaulted, according to the UN. The United Nations Children's Agency says 1 in 8 girls and young women across the world have endured rape and sexual violence, with the highest number of victims recorded in the sub-Saharan Africa. UNICEF published its first ever global estimate on sexual violence against children, revealing that 79 million girls, 1 in 5 in sub-Saharan countries hit by conflict and insecurity, had experienced sexual assault or rape before turning 18. It's terrifying, said Nankali Maksud, a child violence specialist at UNICEF based in Nairobi, Kenya. It's generations of trauma. Girls who had suffered the trauma of sexual abuse were often unable to learn at school, she said. Globally, UNICEF estimates that sexual violence has affected some 370 million, or 1 in 8 girls and young women. The number rises to 650 million. Or 1 in 5, when taking into account non-contact forms of sexual violence, such as online or verbal abuse, according to the agency's report published on Wednesday. Yeah, and there was something we reported on the other day, too, that was talking about that, too, about the sexual violence of women. It was in India with the women who were married, how they were trying to decriminalize raping your spouse. What the fuck kind of world are we living in, folks, where this is like even being debated? You know, we have to celebrate the independence and individuality of women, but we also have to protect them too, because they're still being, it's just brutal, what's going on there with women around the world. So, and that's just another symptom of our diseased society and what we allow to happen around the world. Oh, Journo, you're over there on Facebook too? Very nice. All you guys double dipping, getting into the mix. Beautiful. Love to see it. Meanwhile, in Mozambique, they're tallying votes in a tense election as opposition denounces fraud. Fraudulent elections, you say? That seems to be a trend around the world, too. Delicious liquor. It's from RFI in French. Vote tallying started shortly after polling stations closed at 6 p.m. local time on Wednesday, with initial results expected in about 2 weeks. Two of the main opposition leaders have already warned against electoral fraud in the southern African nation, plagued by high levels of poverty and jihadist violence in the north. Outgoing President Philippe Nyusi, who is stepping down after a 2-term limit, called for continued calm and patience after a day of voting with no major incidents reported. I would also ask that no group of citizens agitate or threaten others, that everything happen in peace and tranquility, and that we avoid announcing the results ahead of time. And this is cool. This is their voter ID, folks. They dip their finger in ink and then they put their fingerprint on there. After casting his vote, opposition candidate Vinicio Mondlane was critical of the process, describing the Electoral Commission as corrupt people, crooks, and scoundrels. People are not, I love the word scoundrels. People are not going to accept this kind of theft, this kind of shamelessness, this kind of electoral banditry Mondlane told reporters outside a polling station. Popular among young voters, Mondlane was until June part of the main opposition party, Renamo, before joining the smaller Optimistic Party for the Development of Mozambique, Podemos. The last presidential election in 2019, which Frelimo won with 73% of the vote, was marred by irregularities, while municipal elections in 2023 ended up in violence after results were contested by the opposition. And we got elections coming up too next month. Yo, 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 it's gonna happen. There's gonna be some fuckery there too. What's up, Bella? Good to see you. Osama number 5, good to see you as well. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Happy Friday to you. So the Russian media has been targeted by hackers. There's always something going on with those guys. So Russian public media holding Rossiya Segodnya withstood a major cyber attack yesterday. The operation targeted resources including RIA Novosti and Sputnik International, leveraging around 1 million bots through IP addresses in Asia and Latin America. And you may remember the other day, I think it was like Monday, Al Mayadeen had I think it was a DDoS attack. And that's pretty much what this is too. DDoS, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically you just get like a whole bunch of people to crash your site, is what they're trying to do. It began at 11 a.m. Moscow time, and at its peak, cybersecurity experts blocked 720,000 IP addresses. The agency is a key player in Russia's media landscape, disseminating news to both domestic and international audiences. RS is a successor to Soviet-era news agencies and has expanded its digital reach through Sputnik, which broadcasts in multiple languages globally. The attack follows a similar cyber offensive earlier this week against VGTRK, a Russian public broadcaster, which disrupted its operations. VGTRK, like Rossiya Segodnya, is a significant part of the Russian media ecosystem, running news channels like Rossiya 1 and Rossiya 24. 2 through 23 are just crap. All it is just infomercials. Some of it is Spanish language. I think that's fine. Direct denial of service. Thank you, Yona. Yes. And that's done by just like getting a whole bunch of like bots and stuff like that to visit your site or wherever it is you're trying to crash, and it does, and it crashes because there's too many fucking people on there. China, they build trains and bridges and stuff like that all around the world, and they're getting into the quantum realm. Little Ant-Man stuff. China pioneers secure quantum comms tech as threat from West spy agencies grow. Look, space. How low can you go? Death row. What a brother no. China plans to launch ultra-secure quantum satellite-based global communications in the next 3 years. Prominent Chinese physicist Pan, no, that's Khan, Jianwei stated, speaking at the Misius Quantum Prize press briefing, Pan said China would complete the construction of its quantum satellite constellation and integrated ground-based networks by 2027. Known as the father of quantum, that was also my name when I was in that funk band. Pan stated during the press briefing that he and a team of researchers plan to launch 2 to 3 satellites into low Earth orbit next year, followed by a high Earth orbit satellite 2 years later. The satellite constellation will then be connected to ground-based optical fiber quantum networks across the country. Pan's team expects the network to be ready for large-scale communications in the next 5 to 10 years, he said. The South China Morning Post reports that the technology is based on the special properties of tiny particles called qubits, which can exist in more than one state at once. Anyone trying to listen in would cause an instant change in the particles, immediately revealing the eavesdropping attempts. Science. Advocates of quantum communication technology say it could make everything from personal banking to national defense communications virtually impossible to hack. The Russian media probably could use that right now. Concerns about secure communications have risen amid the ongoing war between Israel and the U.S. on the one hand, and Iran and the Axis of Resistance on the other since October last year. Days after the start of the war, reports emerged that not only Israel, but also UK intelligence was surveilling the communications of Hezbollah in Lebanon and maybe vice versa now, a key member of the Axis. The Daily Telegraph reported that the UK was using its listening post on Mount Olympus in central Cyprus. What? That's where the gods live. One of the most important intelligence gathering sites in the Five Eyes network to spy on Hezbollah's activities. Fearing Israeli penetration, giggity, of its communications network, Hezbollah shifted away from using mobile phones and incorporated other technologies, including pagers and walkie-talkies. And well, you know what happened there. Boom, boom, boom. However, Israeli intelligence was able to arrange for Hezbollah to purchase those devices, and, you know, there was the explosions and whatnot. So, yeah, so China not fucking around with communications, going the quantum route. I think that science is very interesting because, you know, you have the quantum computers, too, that are very powerful, too. Choosy! What's up, Choosy? Good to see it. What up, Uncle Warren? What are you doing, wiggling, trying to avoid me writing a book? You're here. You're here to write your memoirs? Excellent. Good to see you. World Wildlife Foundation dropping some bad news here. Wildlife populations dropped by more than 70%, according to them, which used to be it's not wrestling, that's WWE. And these are some elephants. Hello. In a rather alarming development, World Wildlife Fund on Thursday disclosed that the wild populations of monitored animals have plunged by more than 70% over the years. The WWF Living Planet Index, featuring data from 35,000 populations of more than 5,000 species of mammals, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and fish, shows a rapid decline in animal populations across the globe. The report highlights that the populations under review had fallen 73% since 1970, mostly due to human pressures. In biodiversity-rich regions such as Latin America and the Caribbean, or Caribbean, if you're, you know, Caribbean Queen, you know, if you're Billy Ocean, the figure for animal population loss is as high as 95%. A lot of that having to do with, you know, just the destruction of the rainforest down there too, and you lose a lot of biodiversity that way as well. The report tracks trends in the abundance of a large number of species, not individual animal numbers. The index has become an international reference and arrives just ahead of the next United Nations Summit on Biodiversity, which will spotlight the issue when it opens in Colombia later this month. The picture we are painting is incredibly concerning, said WWF International Director General Kirsten Shujit. Really? Kirsten? It's like Mr. Mister. Or Pizza. Speaking of food, there seems to be a French fry situation going on. America's French fry king sounds alarm. Americans are revolting against McDonald's and fast food chains. That's hurting French fry suppliers like Lamb Weston. Lamb Weston, the largest producer of French fries in North America and a major supplier to fast food chains, restaurants, and grocery stores, is closing a production plant in Washington state. The company announced last week that it would lay off nearly 400 employees, or 4% of its workforce, and temporarily cut production lines in response to slowing customer demand. Shares of Lamb Weston have dropped 35% this year. The potato giant is oversupplied at a time when demand is sluggish. Restaurant prices in recent years have increased faster than grocery store prices, leading customers to pull back at fast food chains. This shift has taken a toll on Lamb Weston because people are less likely to cook French fries at home. Around 80% of French fries consumed in the U.S. comes from fast food chains, according to Lamb Weston. Fast food chains like McDonald's are dangling value menus to try to lure customers back. McDonald's has launched a $5 meal, which includes a McDouble cheeseburger or a McChicken sandwich. Both taste like ass. Small French fries, 4-piece chicken nuggets, and a small soft drink. But these deals aren't helping Lamb Weston because people are buying smaller portion of fries. Many of these promotional meals deals have consumers trading down from a medium fry to a small fry. Lamb Weston CEO Thomas Werner said last week on an earnings call. Lamb Weston did not immediately respond for comment. McDonald's, its largest customer, accounts for 13% of Lamb Weston's sales. As McDonald's goes, so does Lamb Weston. And McDonald's is struggling. Sales at U.S. restaurants open at least a year fell 0.7% last quarter, and from the same period a year earlier, dragged down by fewer customers visiting the chain. Yes, high prices and people protesting McDonald's supporting genocide as well. Lamb Weston is also highly exposed to other fast food chains. Analyst RJ Hatavi at analytics firm Placer.ai said in a research note to clients last week, consumer traffic to fast food chains dropped 2% last quarter and 3% the previous quarter compared to the same time last year, according to Lamb Weston. That's right. Those delicious French fries. Nobody wants that shit. Glyphosate fries and more. I know, right? A good excuse to raise prices. I know. And I was reading something about like a Big Mac meal in some places is like $15, $18 for a Big Mac. Well, you get the drink and the fries. Nobody. McDonald's used to be considered decent food way back in the day, and now it's considered shit food, and even the shit food is expensive. Well, we told you earlier about journalists getting the short end of the stick and getting killed in places like Israel. And well, now one gray zone American journalist has been arrested, and God knows what's going to happen to him next.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
Checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
So going back to antiwar.com, Israel jails American journalists for reporting on Iranian missile strikes. Something the PBS has been doing too, but apparently they're cool. So this is an update from Gray Zone founder Max Blumenthal said today that a district court ordered Lofredo to be released, but forbade him from leaving Israel for a certain period of time. So let's get to the story. Jeremy Lofredo, an American journalist for the Gray Zone, has been arrested or was arrested by the Israeli military for his reporting inside Israel. Lofredo was jailed just a few days after releasing a report on Iranian missile strikes in Israel, information the Israeli military has been trying to censor. According to the Israeli news site Ynet, or Ynet, I'm not sure how that goes. Because of the report, Lofredo faces charges of, quote, aiding the enemy during wartime and providing information to the enemy. Representatives from the U.S. Embassy attended a hearing on a police request to extend Lofredo's detention, but so far the U.S. government has been silent and has not publicly called for his release. Of course not, because he's telling on their buddies. Israel is detained and prosecuted American journalists for doing journalism. Will his media colleagues defend him? Aaron Mate, a journalist for the Gray Zone, wrote on the tweeters. You know Aaron Mate. An independent journalist who was arrested alongside Lofredo but has since been released said they were beaten and blindfolded by the Israeli military. Today, I was beaten, kidnapped, blindfolded, and taken to a military base by the Israeli occupation forces together with 4 other journalists. The journalist Andre X wrote on Twitter, 2 of us were held for 11 hours without charges. My phone was confiscated, stolen, and 1 of us is still in custody. That would have been Lofredo, but he's released now. British journalist Kit Clarenberg, a contributor to the Gray Zone, is asking people to contact the U.S. Embassy in Israel and urge pressure on the Israeli government, I would assume, to let him leave the country or the company at this point. So, yeah. You have to have a big pair of balls on you to be in the press these days. And God love those people, too. They need all the support they can get because these independent journalists are the only ones that's getting the truth out. And Israel knows this. The United States knows this. and they're trying to stop it any way they can. We reported the other day that Israel arrested a teacher for a TikTok video. Well, she's out now, too. She was just... They released the Palestinian teacher detained, blindfolded, and humiliated over the TikTok video. Palestinian teacher has been released from Israeli custody after being arrested on October 7th. Entisar Hijazi, they didn't name her name before, but they're naming it now. Entisar Hijazi, a Palestinian citizen of Israel, shared a TikTok memory from last year with the caption, "On this day," it's 10/7/23 if you're in America. Everywhere else they put the day first. The video shows Hijazi spinning in a dress while a song called Good Times was playing. She was accused of celebrating the October 7th attacks and was arrested for incitement of violence and supporting terrorism. Dancing is incitement of violence and supporting terrorism, folks. So if you're a dancer, watch out. They'll come for you. Police said the officer decided to release Hijazi under restrictive conditions, and the investigation was still ongoing. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir posted a photo of the teacher blindfolded in the back of a police car, saying he had forwarded the video to law enforcement officers. There would be zero tolerance for incitement and supporters of terrorism. What is this, Footloose? They're fucking banning dancing now? Pro-Palestine activism under attack in Europe, warns Muslim civil society organizations. Muslim civil society organizations have raised concerns over an increasing wave of government crackdowns on pro-Palestinian activism throughout Europe, citing violations of human rights and freedom of expression. In a joint statement at this week's Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe's Warsaw Human Dimension Conference held in Poland, the participants said that protests and public demonstrations supporting Palestine have faced heightened scrutiny and restrictions from local authorities. Groups from the UK, France, Sweden, Austria, and Denmark said there had been an undeniable increase in the suppression and criminalization of forms of resistance to Israeli atrocities in Gaza, citing the arrests of activists and protesters, restrictions on freedom of speech, and the dissolution and banning of organizations. Activists noted a pattern of increased police presence at events, as well as the imposition of fines and legal actions against organizers, which all disproportionately impact Muslim communities who are often at the forefront of these movements. They called for greater awareness and support to ensure that their voices are not silenced in the ongoing discourse surrounding the ongoing Israeli war. In the 10-day conference, activists also warned that such continent-wide crackdowns had exposed a worrying decline in the promotion and protection of human rights. In their statement, the Muslim organizations criticized global institutions and European countries for their inability to hold Israel accountable, urging the OSCE to enforce mechanisms to compel governments to adhere to international law, otherwise it condemns itself as an inept institution. COP29, a host deal revealed amid Azerbaijan's vicious crackdown on critics. Human Rights Watch yesterday revealed the host country agreement between the United Nations and Azerbaijan for next month's climate summit on the heels of an HRW report exposing the government's concerted efforts to decimate civil society and silence its critics. COP29 is scheduled for November 11th through the 27th in Baku. Although the agreement was signed in August by UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, Executive Secretary Simon Steele and Mukhtar Babayev, Azerbaijan's Minister of Ecology and National Resources, it was not made public until the U.S.-based human rights group obtained a copy. Mirto Tilianakis, senior advocate for HRW's Environment and Human Rights Division, said it is disappointing but not surprising that the 20-page document is replete with significant shortcomings and ambiguities on the protections for participants' rights. As Tilianaki detailed in a dispatch yesterday on the HRW website, for instance, the agreement states that while conference participants shall enjoy immunity for legal process in respect of words spoken or written and any act performed by them. A separate clause requires them to respect Azerbaijani laws and not interfere in its internal affairs. There is no clarity in the agreement about what actions could constitute interference with Azerbaijan's internal affairs and whether Azerbaijan's laws apply in the UN-run conference zone. Given Azerbaijan's strict limitations on freedoms of expression and assembly, which violate international human rights, participants' actions within the zone could be subject to reprisals outside the zone. Telianaki cited HRW and Freedom Now's Tuesday report, "We try to stay invisible. Azerbaijan's escalating crackdown on critics in civil society," which states that the Caucasus country had a poor human rights record for many years, with the government regularly targeting those who play important watchdog roles in society, including human rights defenders, journalists, and independent civic activists. Meta getting a double dose today. Meta permanently bans Al Mayadeen English. I told you about them earlier, about them getting a DDoS on Monday and their site being down. I think it was Monday. Meta has disabled. Meta is what we're on right now, folks, on the Facebook there. So we're probably going to be taken down too. So if you're watching on Facebook, enjoy. Who knows how long this is going to last. Meta has disabled the account of Al Mayadeen English on Instagram for allegedly not following our community guidelines. Those community guidelines they never tell you about. And when they do, they're very vague. All your information will be permanently deleted, the robot stated. You cannot request another review of this decision, it asserted, meaning that no appeal can be made. And the move follows a similar one last October when the Al Mayadeen English account was shortly suspended on Instagram and later restored following an appeal. At the time, neither a reason nor a prior notice was provided for the suspension. Sound familiar? People who've had shit taken off of social media? It is worth noting that Al Mayadeen English's coverage follows journalistic standards and displays no graphic content that could have violated guidelines. It is also not the first time that Meta has taken such measures, as banning and blocking pro-Palestine and pro-resistance accounts has become the norm for the multinational technology conglomerate. And Meta fires an engineer for fixing the bug that bans Palestine content. Oh, look at him, Mr. Data. Number one, we must put Mr. Data on the bridge. Tech giant Meta has fired an engineer for trying to fix a bug causing the blocking of Instagram posts about Palestine, and the engineer has accused Meta of bias in its handling of content related to the war on Gaza. Palestinian-American engineer Faraz Hamad, who has been employed at Meta since 2021, filed a lawsuit in a California state court for discrimination and wrongful termination, accusing the company of bias against Palestinians. He said the company even deleted internal employee communications mentioning the deaths of their relatives in Gaza and conducted investigations into their use of the Palestinian flag emoji. But, during COVID, the government made us do all this stuff. COVID's one thing. Zionists are a totally different thing. The lawsuit further states that no similar investigations have been launched before for employees posting Israeli or Ukrainian flag emojis in similar contexts. Hamad notes that his dismissal was due to an incident in December regarding an emergency procedure to troubleshoot severe problems with the platforms known within Meta as a SEV or site event. According to the complaints in the lawsuit, Hamad noticed irregularities in the SEV policies related to restricting content posted by Palestinian Instagram accounts, such as posts being prevented from appearing in searches and feeds. One instance cited in the complaint revealed that Hamad stumbled upon a short video posted by Palestinian photojournalist Motaz Aziza, which was mislabeled as adult content, even though all it included was a destroyed building in Gaza. Well, if you think about it, you really shouldn't let kids see destroyed buildings, especially if there's destroyed children in there. The engineer explained receiving mixed guidance from many employees about the status of the SCV and if he had the authority to work on it, as he did on many SCVs before, including ones related to Israel, Gaza, and Ukraine. It was later confirmed in writing that the SCV was part of his job per his manager. Ahmad said Meta told him he was fired for violating a policy. He violated the community standards, and they didn't tell what the community standards were. Barring employees from working on issues with accounts of people they know personally, referring to Azaza, to whom Ahmad said he had no personal connection. So there you go. All that shit. All that's part of the propaganda watch is censorship. You have to when you're being censored, you have to, first off, you have to wonder why you're being censored, right? You have to understand the motivations behind that, right? Why are you being silenced? Is it because of community standards, or is it because of another community that begins with a Z, ends in ionist, that's actually controlling the show? Finally, today we've got a couple of little things here. The last one is pretty nice. This one is just well, okay. The robo-taxis are apparently here. Production of cyber cabs with an estimated price tag of less than $30,000 expected to start in 2026. Now, granted, it looks a hell of a lot better than the truck. That truck looks like something out of RoboCop. This kind of does too, with the wheels. What the fuck is that? Tesla CEO Elon Musk has showcased a prototype of the electric vehicle maker's long-awaited self-driving robotaxi. The new car is projected to hit the road. I see what you did there. As soon as the next 2 years. The Cybercab, unveiled yesterday at Warner Brothers Studio in Los Angeles, features 2 gull-wing doors and no steering wheel or pedals. It is expected to enter production in 2026. Probably, well, I intend to be a little optimistic on timeframes, but in 2026, he said, speaking with his head up Trump's ass. Before 27, let me put it that way. The tech entrepreneur emphasized that operation of the vehicle, which is highly optimized for autonomous transport, would eventually cost 20 cents per mile, as charging would require no plugs. Musk pledged to transform the Tesla transportation experience into supervised, full self-driving that will allow people to fall asleep and wake up at your destination. Kind of like when I do after I go to the bar. And here's what this looks like. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, it kind of looks cool. I mean, it looks kind of goofy with the wheels. I don't like. I don't like the wheels. So yeah, there's like no steering wheel. There's like apparently there's like a video screen or like some sort of computer screen that tells you when your robot overlord is about to kill you. So there he goes, and he was never seen again. Discussing safety, the billionaire entrepreneur compared the shift to autonomous vehicles with the switch from human-operated elevators to automatic ones. Yeah, that's different because an elevator is in a fixed position the whole time. It either goes up or down in one vertical space, while these cars go all over the fucking place. Just a little bit of a difference there, Elon. We'll see autonomous cars become 10 times safer than a human, Musk said. The autonomous feature is here. We have 50 fully autonomous cars here tonight. You'll see Model Ys, and the Cybercab all driverless. And then these are people on their way to their deaths or some sort of Hot Wheels convention. Yeah, your robot overlords. Hopefully there's a nice car stereo in there for you, so you'll have happy tunes when you die. Tesla first started beta testing on its full-service driving software, the latest version of autopilot technology 4 years ago. The feature, however, has faced intense scrutiny from the U.S. federal regulators. Earlier this year, the U.S. Transportation Department's National Highway Traffic Safety Administration stated it had opened an investigation after receiving reports of 20 crashes involving vehicles that had autopilot software updates installed. Tesla had already recalled the vehicles. Right? I mean, what else did you think was going to fucking happen? Right? Human-driven cars are crashing. What do you think is going to happen with, like, robocars? So bullshit. Driverless and also clueless. Yes, Miguel, exactly. Thank you. Driverless and also useless. Yes, useless and clueless too. These people are clueless, or maybe they know what they're doing. They're trying to kill people. Who knows? I think that was in Total Recall. They had those driving cars that driven by themselves, but they had like some sort of like I don't know what kind of like some sort of, hi, welcome to RoboCab. I'm going to kill you today. Finally, we've been experiencing some pretty skies last night. Northern lights dazzle the skies across the U.S. and the world. The Northern Lights, or Aurora Borealis, which were triggered by a powerful solar flare and coronal mass ejection. I had one of those. That's why my last two girlfriends left me. Released from the sun that caused a geomagnetic storm illuminate the sky above the U.S. Capitol in Washington. So the Northern Lights returned to the skies across the U.S. and the world last night after a powerful storm did that shit. Extreme G5 geomagnetic conditions were observed reaching the Earth for the first time in 21 years yesterday and remained at G4 levels overnight, per NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center, which warned the storm had the potential to disrupt communications and the electric power grid. So this one is in China, over the Jinshaling Great Wall in Daqing, Heilongjiang province of China. Nailed it. This one here, ooh, pretty. This one's in the scene at Lake of the Isles, about a mile from downtown Minneapolis. Look at that. Just like, usually you can't see these this far south, but made for some very interesting looking skies, that's for sure. This is over the river Vecht and over Jizzle. Is that like the coronal mass ejection? In Dalfsen, the Netherlands. This is over the Tapan Z or Governor Mario M. Cuomo bridge. I love that. That's the Mario M. Cuomo bridge near New York City. This is Pitstone Windmill in Pitstone, Buckinghamshire, UK. This is the White Lake, North Carolina. Very pretty. I mean, it's just, science is so much. I mean, like, our universe just does some very beautiful things. Exactly. You live in the fucking city, can't see anything except the lights on the cranes. Yeah, I tried to look at them last night here in Chicago, and I think it was a little, it was a little cloudy, but there's a lot of trees and stuff too, and you get the light pollution from the city that kind of screws it up too. This is in Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain. Hey! That sounds Italian. I shouldn't have said that. This is Sugarloaf Key. Sugarloaf's another band too, if you've ever heard of them. 15 miles from Key West. I'm assuming this was after the hurricane went through. Toronto, Canada. This is DC, back to DC. So, at least you get some pretty lights with your coronal mass ejections, erections, that sort of thing. That's for another show that's coming up this weekend. I believe I'm going to be the meat in a Willie Bragg sandwich tonight, because Willie's got two shows tonight. We've got a show with our buddy Jamar Jabari. We were supposed to have him on Wednesday. We had a scheduling conflict, but he's going to be with us tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. talking about his music, talking about his activism, talking about what's going on in the world, and his take on things. Should be fun. And of course, this Saturday, this asshole is going to be back with the Secret Show, doing all kinds of stuff. We had Solid JJ on last week, and we were talking about how you can please women. It wasn't me. It was somebody else that did that. So that's going to be this Saturday, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube, Rockfin, and Rumble. Maybe not Facebook, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be taken care of. Oh, you're not doing a show tonight? Well, you had two scheduled for tonight. You're not doing either one of those? That's too bad. But just keep checking with Willie's page, his YouTube page, to see when he's going to have his shows. He does a good job. Who at 4 p.m.? What are you talking about? You meant Jamar Jabari. He's our buddy of ours. He's a good kid. You know, he's had me on his show before, and I really enjoyed being on there. So, well, we're going to have him on this one. So, I believe that is everything. I think so. If you're watching on Facebook, like your first time watching, hopefully you didn't get too shocked by what you heard, but hopefully you'll come back if we're allowed to do this again on Facebook. Meta has a tendency to kick people off. No Willie Bragg show tonight, but we're going to have the Secret Show. We're going to have ExtraBulla live tonight, and then Secret Show tomorrow night. So should be a good time. In the meantime, enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Keep your eyes and ears open. Stay frosty, because fuckery is afoot everywhere. Stay out of the cults, and use your critical thinking skills. If you want to donate to the show, the links are down below with Chanda's GoFundMe as well. If you can't contribute to either one, please share out the links and tell your friends to like, share, and subscribe. Kate, what are you talking about? Okay, Kate, there's no Willie Bragg show tonight. All right? But I'm going to be on tonight. So I hope that clears things up. I know it tends to be a little confusing around here. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. And we'll see you tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. And we'll see you back here on Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, and 7 a.m. Pacific Time. And yes, I know I'm saying specific on purpose. Peace out, y'all. Word to your mother. Tell her I'm coming over.
This is City Alpha 5! Woo! Damn good song, wasn't it, dog? You like that song? All right.
Soon.
Fuck you, everybody. Good night!